Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Gray Zone Warfare video, and my favorite kind to make, because this will be covering the game's current gameplay loop, what they've done right, and some things that drastically need a rework, and some core systems that dictate exactly how the game functions and how to keep players hooked. The topic of gameplay loops are a reoccurring subject on this channel, purely because they are my favorite thing to cover, being that they rarely differ from one another, but when they do, they can crack open a space-time continuum in the forefront of evolution of gaming that can open up an entire era of games to come after, often failing one after another until groundbreaking innovation finally gets it right, and from there on out, we are off to the races once again. It's almost as if game design within itself is a gameplay loop, and the fact that games are art and good art reflects reality in a meaningful way, I can't think of anything more important to a game than how it fundamentally loops. But again, I attempt to drag you, my sweet and trusting viewer, through the mud of philosophical jibber jabber of my love of gameplay loops when I need to be talking about Gray Zone Warfare's unique gameplay loop and how it could drastically improve. As I am playing this game and pondering on what the hell kind of game Gray Zone Warfare really is, I'm struck with the realization that there is something seriously interesting about how this project is trying to implement their gameplay loop, and it's making me see the future of Gray Zone more clearly the more hours I put in. Many people right now seem to have a hard time putting their finger on why the developers have made the decisions they've made and how Gray Zone Warfare loops, and has thrown wonderfully smart people for a loop, no pun intended, like Slorgs, who's one of my favorite YouTubes for his comedic and in-depth breakdown of gameplay functions, causing him to make a video about this title being in some kind of identity crisis limbo after its PvP update, because instead of playing the game and doing a simple analysis of things yet to come, was to focus on X posts made by the community managers calling Gray Zone an extraction shooter, then an FPS MMO later on, to really see where this game is going. But in all honesty, I can't blame him. This isn't even half of what we are to expect with Gray Zone Warfare's gameplay loop, and the one we have now is a painfully early iteration of what it will be once the game is further along, and is also plagued with seemingly obvious oversights from the developers that will almost certainly be ironed out. So I invite you to sink your teeth into what this gameplay loop is and talk about the biggest pain points and how we should add, subtract, and most importantly innovate this core loop to maximize your crippling gameplay loop addiction going into the future. But before we get into that, I do want to warn you, we will be referring to other games and what they do well and comparing it to Gray Zone Warfare. I know this doesn't sound like a big deal, but one of the games I like to take examples from is Escape from Tarkov, and for reasons I can fully understand, triggers the PTSD in gamers who watch my videos and feel the need to, in all caps, say, go play Tarkov if you don't like Gray Zone Warfare then. And to that I say I will, as well as hundreds of thousands of others who know that despite what should be game-breaking issues with Tarkov, still play that game over Gray Zone Warfare. It should help us realize that if we want Gray Zone to win, we need to use examples that work. And unfortunately for my PTSD-riddled gamers watching this video today, Tarkov has many. That being said, yes, I still do realize that Gray Zone is not Tarkov, and understand that turning it into Tarkov is not the answer. So I should shut my fat mouth and just go play Tarkov instead of making this video here. But I won't. So let's get into it. Starting with, what is Gray Zone Warfare? Well, despite the confusion on X, formerly known as Twitter, Gray Zone Warfare is a PvEVP open world extraction looter shooter with elements of the massive multiplayer open world genre that only makes itself obvious when I'm out tasking and walk past another player who barely acknowledges my existence as we run off to do our own missions. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Here, take this for your services. This game and how you progress have a stark similarity to Tarkov, with missions you complete out in the world that attribute to things like character leveling, earning items, trader leveling so you can buy better gear, and all the bits and bobs of a pay-to-win secure container and better starting equipment if you are even willing to dish out the $120 for the best edition of the game. That seems about the best way to describe it currently. It makes sense that a jibble-jabble of genre-defining junk would attribute to the identity crisis people seem to be assuming this game has, and in a way does have, because of what I think the biggest problem that comes with making in-depth and complex loops brings, and that is the development cycle itself. Gray Zone Warfare is an incredibly young game, and as much as I hate to give it the excuse of being young, so it's just not there yet, so you don't get it, especially with the eye-watering ask of $40 for a disadvantage of an experience. It's true. The systems we see here are only the first round of what I think will be a genre-defining gameplay loop. Tarkov, starting out with the same jibber jabber, not understanding what it was before the term extraction shooters was coined, and has gone through many of these identity crises before, and is arguably going through a few at this very moment. Hell, Tarkov didn't even want to make Tarkov and was using this small project to help iron out systems they needed for the game they actually wanted to make. Russia 2028. My point here is one I thought I'd never have to defend, and that Grayzone is implementing complex and in-depth gameplay loop mechanics, testing them out in their most early form to get a sense of what players like and what they can improve on when the experience becomes more fleshed out. And early is an understatement, because the current iteration of these mechanics do seem to be in their infancy, and that is what we are here to help mature. Let's start with the COP system itself and how I'd like to improve it overall. Currently, there are control and capture points throughout Lomang where you can trade, turn in missions, gear up, and respawn if you die. Some of these have the advantage of getting a unique trader if you control the main ones, but other than that, there is absolutely no reason to hold and defend these points. The emotional feeling of losing and gaining them is that of a lobotomized housewife who just took a benzo. I feel as though even if a COP becomes captured, at least it's there to run back to when I complete missions, regardless of whether or not it's mine. I love the idea of COPs because it provides developers a blank canvas on what they can do and further integrate them into the gameplay loop in a more meaningful way. So what's the problem with them currently? Well, they don't actually do anything whether you have them or not. At most, it's a convenient place to stop in and turn in your missions, but with the added benefit of extra guns to sell off the NPCs who guard it if it happens to be in enemy control. And that's fine. They should be rewarding to capture, but they should be even more rewarding to hold, with things like making them available to spawn at when you load into a server instead of just at your main base. Also, a frontline mechanic with faction benefits when you hold a main COP along with two more that are tied to it, like discounts on certain types of ammo, weapon parts, and other gear and equipment. There should be daily faction-wide quests to hold a certain amount of them for a specific amount of time for a good reward and an equal enemy incentive to take them back. COP-specific quests that are unique to the area, and the deeper into enemy lines they are, the more rewarding and challenging the quests become, utilizing proximity to the enemy faction as some kind of risk versus reward mechanic. Some of these quests could involve taking pictures or fetching something from the enemy starter town without killing players, or defending a CP with a high enemy incentive to capture it back, but a great reward for holding them if you're able to defend it in a certain amount of time. Holding a COP frontline of 3 could unlock intel items like better locations for in-game events, such as boss spawn locations, airdrops, or a PvP event of some kind, drones, or the ability to see how hot an LZ is likely to be when selecting one to land at. One of the most important things I'll talk about when it comes to gameplay loops in an economy-based game are money sinks. Expensive mechanics that players with too much time and money on their hands can use to continue their grind for an endless amount of things to earn for an in-game advantages. When it comes to COPs, this could be perfect. Players could spend a considerable amount of money fortifying COPs with more AI, marked landmine locations to limit flank options, or even a money trade supply upgrade you can add to a COP that loads a crate at the location with random and unique items that player can take for themselves. A more serious reward structure should be implemented in capturing more difficult COPs, like a player reputation system others in your faction can view and enemy players can see if they loot your body. This reputation should be affected by how many players you kill also, but we'll save that for the next section when it comes to PvP. The ideas for COPs are endless, especially when you start adding other gameplay mechanics that could help the capture points influence them throughout your campaign in Lomang. In a world where the motto is every move matters, it just doesn't feel like anything matters in Grayzone Warfare. And this game needs to leverage every little aspect about its design they can to entice the feeling that it isn't just what you do that matters, but what you have that has a profound effect on your psyche when you earn and lose items, and that is why they need to get rid of cross progression from PvE to PvP servers. Whether or not you think this is a big deal, it contributes to diluting the value of things in the game. An M4 I got with the subtle chance that there could be an enemy player to contend with will always feel more meaningful than an M4 you got without. No matter how big or small, locking PvE and PvP server progression away from each other will add value to everything you do in the game, further making my subconscious believe that every move really does matter. Which brings me to the function of PvP in this game and what it means for a player in Grayzone Warfare. Well, again, almost nothing. There is really no good reason to PvP in this game besides a good time, of course, especially when you consider the fact that losing a loadout is far worse than enduring the risk of killing a player, trying to loot, and getting out before the player spawns at a nearby COP just to run up and head tap you with a busted AK. After having this happen enough times, I'm convinced that if you die in a PvP server, you should not be able to loot your gear back unless an enemy player has looted the gear for themselves and you happen to kill them. That being said, there should be an insurance system. Items you insure will be returned to your stash after a few hours if no one else happens to take it for themselves. This will make dying suck, but not a chore. Right now it feels like dying doesn't matter and is a chore at the same time, kind of worse of both worlds here. PvP and Gray Zone should have a point. Right now you don't need to PvP to help with anything you do in the game, and I'm surprised PvP dailies or a PvP focused task line wasn't brought in with its most recent update. Daily tasks to kill enemy players would not only add something to do, but have good rewards for completing. Dog tags or some kind of token reward off of the players you kill would be a welcomed feature in a game like this, especially if you could sell what you get from a player for money or just to show off in your stash. Speaking of chores, dying in Gray Zone Warfare should be punishing without extracting the fun of the experience and turning it into one. Right now when you die in Gray Zone, you have to throw together a loadout, which can take time and is quite boring to do, especially if you want to run back for revenge. There should be a customizable gear option that, when used, will automatically equip that gear set into your character from your stash and purchase the rest. That way you're not just fumbling around in your inventory for a trusty gun to use when trying to get back into the fight. Another suggestion I have for the game, yes, there's more, don't hold your breath, and another very important concept I would like to cover is dynamicism, and this can be affected by how nighttime works. Night should not just be the same world you are fighting in with a new coat of paint. It should encourage you to do different things and play differently in the world of Lemang. Different enemy types and loot in unlikely locations would force players to change tactics and explore areas that aren't typically utilized. Moon cycles could help nighttime be far more dark and make it difficult to see, to force players to endure the risk of losing expensive MVGs for the benefit of being able to see. Let's keep going, shall we? Factions and what sets them apart currently in Gray Zone Warfare are where they start and what they are called. That's it. No difference in uniforms, gear, weapon stats, voice lines. Fucking voice lines, man. These don't change across factions, and in fact don't change every other sentence, it seems. A small thing, but the devil is in the details. A serious difference in these different factions would be one of the most welcoming changes to come to this game. Giving players a choice in who they want to be would add to their claims that this game is an MMO. Giving players many different options to choose from would be a gift to us all. I honestly could make this video twice as long with the pages of suggestions I have, but this seems to me to be the most pressing in a game like this. I love this game and what Madfinger are trying to do, and I do believe we have a Tarkov killer on our hands, but it's going to take time and much needed feedback from the community. So let me know what you guys think and any ideas you might have so I can call you stupid or a brilliant son of a bitch. Thank you very much for watching and have yourselves a very nice day.